Spoilers ahead for Moon Knight. Hello, you donuts! Today, the avatars of Brad and I are here to pass judgment on Moon Knight Episode 3. But before we get into it, don't forget to pop over to the website, scriptdepartment.net. Check out what our global network of screenwriters has been up to. They do all kinds of stuff. And feel free to go back and check out our other episodes. We're Episode 3 of Moon Knight, so we got 1 and 2 knocking around there as well. So go check it out. So, Brad, we've got Gods Turn into Stone. We've got Gods Messing with the Sky, and we've got Oscar Isaac yelling inappropriately at a board meeting of gods. What did we think of Moon Knight Episode 3?
I liked it. Very different in the way that the other episodes felt different as well. It didn't necessarily feel, the mystery of the first one, or even the sort of like beat 'em up. Although there was a lot of fighting in it, it didn't have that sort of like Marvel beat 'em up feel of the second one. We're still not getting a lot of Moon Knight. He's not necessarily got a lot of screen time. I'm sure you can count it in minutes. Well, you certainly can count it in minutes because he's not on a lot. But I quite liked it. I'm looking forward to where they're going with it. It's definitely a mid-season episode. They're not going to reveal everything right now because there's 3 episodes left, but they're tugging at the same threads to keep you sort of interested in it, I think.
For sure. I was a bit cooler on this one. I didn't because you're right. It's definitely a mid-series episode, but I felt as though I kind of feel like with a Disney Plus show, because they can just kind of do whatever they want. The rules are out there. It's not like you have to you've got a network telling you, hey, we need XYZ to fill XYZ time slot. They're a streaming platform. They can do whatever they want. And so I kind of feel like there's not really any excuse for what we would classify as a mid-series episode with these kind of things. If the story's not there, then why have it? Just cut ahead. And I kind of think like I felt like there was some contrivances in this to keep it going. I found that I think if you were to cut, I just wasn't moved by the quest in this one, because I think because we've seen. We start off, we see Ethan Hawke's digging in the desert. That's like one of the first things we see. So we go, okay, well, he's found it then. And then we spend the rest of the show with them all going, we can't find it. It's like, well, I mean, it's there. It's right that you're in it's just there. And, and I wonder if we had been told he had found it, but we weren't actually shown the place. Maybe it would be a little bit more. I don't know. Good moments of it. And it's, far. It's still fun. It's still a fun place to be. But I don't know. I just didn't feel as though it was as well structured and as well kind of narratively driven. This one.
Yeah, the digging in the desert thing is interesting because I think this episode covers like a day and a half. I'm guessing, like it's two nights and then a bit extra on the other side, or at the beginning even, and it's there's. I mean, we don't know what because we can't see what he's digging. We just know he's out there digging.
Yeah,
and we don't really see what they're finding. They could reveal next episode that they found a catacombs and it's full of booby traps, and it's killing all his guys as they're walking through it, trying to find what they're finding. Amit's
Amit's
coffin.
tomb, I think. Yeah,
tomb.
I think.
But
are
they actually after the bones of Amit? Is that?
Well, I think it's meant to be. It's meant to be where she's imprisoned, I think, right? So I suppose that they're trying to find the corporeal remains, I think, or something, or maybe something like that. Maybe they're there because they say later on that the convenient sarcophagus that just happens to be in the hands of somebody that Layla knows it's all written on there in pure Indiana Jones style.
It's very indie, this episode.
Very indie, yeah, very, very indie. And it's, they say that that's written on there just in case the gods change their mind about, being merciful or something like that. So I assume it's a physical thing they're looking for, and they're looking to raise her from the physical grave. But you're right, it is interesting because it's still quite vague, I think. Which is good.
Yeah, I think I quite like that. I mean, I like the fact that he's got this golden compass beetle thing, and it's just sort of like, it's around about there, and you're like, okay, it's not super accurate. It's just pointing him in a general direction. It's here. It's under the sand here. So I get that. I like it. I think they've done quite a decent job of moving into Egypt. It didn't go too. Obviously, we opened on the pyramids of Giza, but it didn't go too geezery. It was,
No.
the music was cool. It was like really modern, sort of almost Bedouin sounding, and it was just very modernized with synthesizers. And they've done a really good job of not making it the Mummy. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Mummy, but they
You don't
just
want a remake, though. Yeah.
exactly. So they're trying to stay away from that. I mean, Oscar Isaacs is just amazing in this. Like, I was trying to imagine this show without Oscar Isaacs, and it'd be pretty bad.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
someone could just really mess that up, and it would be bad. But the things that he does, even with just his face, when he's changing in between the guys, he changes in between Mark and Stephen about halfway through. He does it a few times this episode.
Oh,
but
yeah, it's so
just
great.
the change in his face, you're like, okay, Stephen now. Yeah, there he is. And he doesn't say anything. It just changes his face.
I think that's
And
the
you're like,
first time we've
okay.
seen him do that as well. I think that's the first time we've seen it on screen and we haven't had the sort of and then cut to
Yes.
further on. I
Yeah.
think that's the first time we've actually witnessed the physical change. And yeah, I thought he nailed that. That was so great. So he really sold that change. That was very, very
He's
cool.
really embracing each character as well. Like, we got an episode and a half or nearly 2 episodes of Stephen, and you felt really sorry for the guy. And now he's Mark. He's a weapon, this guy. Like, at the start where he's running across the roofs like Casino Royale, the bit of parkour kind of thing. And, it's that was fun. He's like, the guy gets his knife out and starts waving it around. It's like, what are we doing? Are we dancing or are we fighting?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That was,
Again,
that's fun. And
it's in indie again, though, isn't it? It's like the
yeah.
and it just goes. Yeah, it's that same
Yeah,
vibe.
like
It's that cool thing.
Yeah, it's that the guy licks his knife, doesn't he? And he's doing like the whole goading, and literally the second he does it, he goes smack, smack in his face. It's like,
Punches him in the
unlucky.
knife, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's the interesting thing about that is they've flipped the Stephen Mark thing. So now Mark's fighting, and Stephen's in the reflections going, "Come on, Mark,
Yeah.
don't hurt them, please."
Hey, what are you doing? I do the voice.
Oh, sorry, that's you.
What the
That's
hell
you,
is
isn't it?
this?
Sorry.
This is
So
unbelievable.
Oh, it was like my inner Stephen came out. I couldn't help it.
I feel very offended by this, Brad. I feel very upset. No, it's fine. You did a good job. Yeah, you're right though. Like the way it was really cool to see Mark front and center, and I love the way that they still, because it would be really easy to play Stephen as the kind of the vulnerable idiot type, and then Mark being the big hero and the Marvel guy and everything. But there was this great vulnerability to Mark as well, which I wasn't expecting. There's the moment when they're in for some reason I'm calling it a board meeting in my head, when the board meeting of the gods, when they're in the Pyramid of Giza, and and he has this moment where they say, are you unwell? And he goes, yeah, I am. I really am unwell. And he has that moment. And there's another bit where when they're going to find the convenient sarcophagus, and he says, someone says something to him, and he kind of goes like, oh, okay, yeah. I can't remember the exact sequence, but he's vulnerable. He looks frightened, and he looks he's out of his element, and it's so fun to then see Stephen step into that, and that's actually his element, and you have these two halves of this person, which hopefully will come together at some point, and maybe we'll get both. I also get a definite vibe between Layla and Stephen.
They're really selling that in, aren't they? She's taken an interest in him, and he's obviously fallen in love with her the moment he spoke to her. Like I said after, because she's a woman, but also because she's like, as we've now found out, she was the daughter of a famous Egyptologist who is murdered, possibly by Mark. We don't know, which is conflict.
Yeah, that
so
is
that's
conflict.
nice. That was a nice bit of conflict that we got added in here. We needed it because we didn't exactly solve a lot of the main issues in the storyline. We didn't necessarily take huge leaps forward in their mission, so we needed something. It wasn't exactly padding it out because we know that's going to play out at some point. But yeah, it was quite interesting, and also that leans on was it this strange third personality that we haven't met yet,
which is so
that was in
interesting.
control of the body.
Yeah, love that, and I really enjoyed that they didn't labor that at all. They just kind of it was there, it happened, and they're both going, "Was that you? Was that you?" And he's like, "Oh, what'd you do, Stephen?" He's like, "That wasn't me, Mark. That wasn't me." It's like, "Well, it must have been you because it wasn't me." It's like, "It wasn't me, Mark." The American not so good as the Stephen.
I knew who you were though. The Stephen's so strong he could do anything for Mark. Yeah.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. But no, it's interesting. It's interesting to see that element there. It'd be interesting to see where they go. And personally, I'm interested to see what accent he has and see if I can do that one too.
Yeah. There was a moment I thought that he did. Mark did a Stephen impression because where he meets the collector. And he does like a weird thing, and he goes, I just want to go and look at it. And he goes, "You strange man." It's like I've rewind. Does he pretending he's an Egyptologist? Because she immediately says, "Give Stephen the body before you mess this up." I was like, "Oh, was he trying to do it?" And I rewound it, and I was like, "No, it was just a weird." He was just really coy, really weirdly. You know, so I don't understand why. But that guy was Antoine, he was played by Gaspard Ulliel, who died recently. So at the end, he was in a really, really horrific skiing accident, he died. Yeah, because he was Hannibal in Hannibal Rising, and he was obviously the aftershave guy for about 100 years. But yeah, he died. So the whole episode was dedicated to him. At the end, it just says in memory of. Yeah,
must have missed that bit. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, that's very sad. I'm sorry to hear that.
He was quite cool. I quite liked that guy. He was his character was cool as well.
Yeah. That was
like a silly man.
You're a silly man. What is it? Yeah, I like that a lot. When they were in the kind of the meeting of the gods and everything, I loved that I'm loving it in retrospect. At the time, I was just thoroughly irritated by the whole thing. But Khonshu yelling through Mark, and just everyone else is just talking. But I love again Oscar Isaac just selling it. He's like yelling like this, and his eyes are just going all around him, like I'm not in control of this. This is so weird, and it absolutely selling it. But what an annoying thing to be around. Can you imagine? You're just trying to have Khonshu? A meeting.
Yeah.
So irritating.
Yeah, he's. You can tell why they don't like him. Really, the other gods. This guy sucks.
This guy's so irritating. He just shouts at us the whole time.
Let's banish him. He's annoying. Banish him.
Make him stone. Yes, much better.
I quite like that you got the impression that there was history between Khonshu and the god of love and music.
Yeah.
I was like,
okay.
Khonshu's got some history here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was, no, I like that. I liked Ethan Hawke's Arthur walking in and sort of saying, yeah, I've not missed that voice. I loved that. It was just that it's acknowledging this, like, yeah, that's really annoying of you. And like the whole kind of attitude towards that, you're right, with the history and the history that all the gods clearly have with him was I thought it was well done. Having kind of been cold on it, I do think it was well done, albeit irritating. But
yeah, it's super irritating. But you can see there's some weird stuff that happened in it where like Mark and Khonshu were almost like contemporaries at one point. He's like they're both is Khonshu sitting on the bonnet of something and he's chatting. And he's like, how are we going to get out of this? And he's like, I don't know. And it's like they're just chatting to one another. And then even comes in and helps Stephen at one point. He moves the stars for Stephen so they can use their special celestial map. And he does it knowing he's going to get locked up. So there was some sort of honor in here. I liked this sort of uncertain who's a good guy, who's a bad guy, who's doing the right thing, who's doing the wrong thing. I mean, even the gods had some sort of relationship with Harrow. Because
he comes back in, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, I can't figure that out yet. It's too early. So I was thinking, is that one avatar on the side of Harrow because he's let him in here now, or have they just got past because he used to be the avatar? So he might have worked with had an office job effectively with them for years.
Had a desk job,
sharing the coffee machine and everything, and
yeah.
the politics of washing forks up in the sink and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's he. That was quite interesting.
Stop stealing my papyrus. You keep
Yes.
making it, you know?
Yeah, it's all of that. Like, so it's like, oh, is it because they've got history? Is it because they're in on it? Do they want Amit back? Like, that was interesting. That really sort of got my attention. I was like, are they all bad, or is this just they're idiots?
The gods thing, I agree. Yeah, are they just idiots? Yeah, the gods thing really got me this time because I'm looking out for. I'm interested to see, because there's so little of the Marvel kind of thing going on. I mentioned this the last couple of these we've done as well. Because there's so little of that going on, I'm really kind of intrigued by how this is coming together. And they mention very specifically the Overvoid in this episode. He says, you come back from the Overvoid or you're going to lose this. And I looked it up, Brad, for your...
Did you? A bit of research.
A bit of research, yeah. And I can tell you, I will credit them here. It is slashfilm.com. So thank you, slashfilm.com. And I quote, in the pages of Marvel Comics, this was the home dimension of the Egyptian gods known as the Ennead, housing gods like Osiris, Isis, and Horus. What was dubbed the Overvoid in Moon Knight Episode 3 was originally called the Celestial Heliopolis. Yeah, and made its debut in the pages then. Since then, it's appeared in several times over the years. But basically, it's where the gods live.
Which so it's like an Asgardian kind of thing. That's super cool.
Yeah, and it's mentioned, perhaps not in this particular article, but it's mentioned somewhere else I read that in the comics it's literally kind of depicted as the same thing as Asgard, and they have like a rainbow bridge, and they have this kind of thing that they can get to and from Earth. So I think it literally is. These gods kind of are the same. They're not the same as the Asgardians. They're not the same people, but they're living their same kind of life. They've got the same kind of thing there. So I quite enjoyed seeing that kind of question answered and seeing how this fits in, because it's interesting to see the whole science as magic, magic as science thing, the line that Marvel walks. I think is really, really interesting, and so it's interesting to see them kind of portrayed in this tangible way, I suppose.
Yeah, I like knowing that. I was starting to get a bit worried they were treading the same path as the Eternals with don't get involved with human affairs, and really, like, what? And the whole this weird thing where it's like they're a bit, are they sad that people don't believe in them anymore or something? Like, they're just like moping around. They're not coming out in their full form. They're only using avatars. They're like banishing the dude who wants to bring justice. And it's just like that was a bit like, ugh, like, what are they doing with these guys? Like, are they gods or not? Like, what's going on here? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
It is a bit weird. Yeah. I think that it is a bit strange. I think they say at one point that the avatars are meant to observe, and that the humanity stopped believing in them, and all this, that, and the other. So I guess they do have a non-interference policy, and I mean this whole non-interference policy. That's very Star Trek, but they I guess they have that kind of vibe, and fair enough. I didn't hate that. I think that it's nice to have a reason why they didn't immediately come and get involved in kind of the events of the rest of the MCU. I think it's just another tool in their box to separate this from the wider world, which I don't hate. It's kind of nice to have that Daredevil vibe back again.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a Daredevil theme to a few parts of this. The fact that he, there's talk of him being an Avenger at some point, or I can't remember the name of the other group that he was part of in the comics.
The Defenders, was it?
Was it Defenders? No,
is it Daredevil or?
Moon Knight.
Oh, right.
Yeah. There's talk of, could he be one of these guys? But 4 guys with pointy sticks got him on the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, those are pretty badass dudes. They were doing the horseback fighting.
Yeah,
great. Yeah. Just like ripped dudes with spears. Yeah. But they got him. They got him down. But I mean, I think there's a chance that was just to show us his healing capability, because there's no way he would have survived without that suit. And Khonshu even refers to it as my healing suit. I think
Yeah,
he
he
says,
does.
he
He does.
refers to it as the healing suit. So it's kind of like, we're still unaware of the power he gets through the suit. So there are things that the suit does, which is amazing. There's the whole Batman, the wing thing was amazing. Like the shape,
moon
it's
shape,
the wing. Yeah, it took the moons when he jumped off.
Yeah.
And then it went a bit, is it Mighty Mouse with the wings of steel? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And he was like, "Pachu, pachu, pachu." I was like, oh, it's Mighty Mouse.
There we go, look at this guy.
Yeah. So that was, that was interesting to see that. But we haven't really seen, I mean, he's done some pretty, strong things, but any more than Captain America might do? Because, I mean, the whole thing with Captain America, he's not superhuman. He's the strongest ever, example of a normal human. Like, that's his whole thing. He's not like Thor or anyone, even though towards the end they've kind of made him into that. But the whole point is he was the limitations of a human, but the exact pinnacle of a human. And, have we seen Moon Knight do anything more than Captain America at this point? Is he just a really strong dude in a bulletproof suit that can fly with sharp things? Or has he got more? Is there like a magic ability to this suit that we haven't seen yet?
I don't know. I mean, it depends, because the moving of the stars is interesting, because he sort of says, Khonshu says to him, "Do what I do," and then it implies that Stephen is actually holding the stars in place. He's by doing that. So was it Khonshu who was doing that, or was he just showing Stephen what to do and then demonstrating exactly what it was? So is the power of the suit far deeper than that? Maybe that's a hint to the power within, or maybe he was just kind of using him as kind of a go-between. I don't know. It'll be interesting to find out, because I don't think there is that much more to him at the moment than that. So yeah, I don't think there is, other than the power of toilet roll swooshing in. There doesn't appear to be that much more. Never-ending boomerangs as well.
Those are cool. And Layla had got one, right? She'd got the ones on the necklace, and that was quite a cool weapon. I quite like that. She was pretty kick-ass in this. You can see why Khonshu's thinking of her as his next avatar. Whether he is or not, you kind of believe him. Is he just trying to keep Mark over a barrel, saying, "I'm gonna, take your wife as the next avatar, and you'll be nothing"? And it's quite interesting that they seem to get on, and then they don't, and I quite like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a servant master sort of vibe, isn't it? That they could be friends under maybe different circumstances, and it's like, no, but every now and again he has to smack him down and go, no, I'm in charge. Don't get too familiar. It's an interesting dynamic. But now he's made of stone and he's tiny.
Yeah, he's really tiny. I was really like, tiny. Wow,
he's wee.
Yeah, he's lost.
Little wee stone man.
He's lost all of his, there isn't as much purpose behind him, especially as Stephen called him a stupid pigeon at the start. Stop doing what that stupid pigeon says.
Yeah, I laughed out loud. I actually sat on my own and laughed out loud at that. There's a bit in the second Harry Potter film where Uncle Vernon describes Hedwig as that bloody pigeon, and there's something about it for some reason just gets me. Describing magnificent birds as pigeons. For some reason, that's exactly my level of humour, apparently.
So I just Googled a comment that I made earlier about the wings of steel. It wasn't Mighty Mouse, it was Batfink. It was Batfink. That was my wings are a shield of steel. I knew there was something wrong with it. But he's basically Batfink. Moon Knight, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, he's basically Batman in a lot of the, there are some Batman elements of this. Like, and I like that. I kind of like the vibe. It's interesting now that bloody pigeon is a little wee stone man. And we'll talk about that in a minute, because I think that's that sequence at the end I thought was really strong. But now he is a little wee stone man. Does that mean that Mark and Stephen no longer have the suit? Because that, I feel, was implied, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say for sure, like, because Khonshu disappears, and so does the suit in that second, and then there is a separation that happens with the body, like the Mark /Stephen /whoever body. Like, he has like a small seizure and falls over, and it's like, oh, okay, like that's been severed, like maybe not permanently, but that is severed, and I wonder what it's going to do when, because obviously Mark's in control of the body, I think. Stephen's in control of the body when it happens. So Stephen goes unconscious, and then I've got no idea what's going to wake up. If he's going to wake up, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll be trapped somewhere else. Like we don't really know. I mean, they banished Khonshu to wherever. Where was he? Nowhere. He was just invisible Khonshu. So he could be there, which would be pretty boring, to be honest.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah, not the most engaging of TV shows for sure. But it's interesting. It's interesting how they're going to go about that, because it's that Marvel thing. It's that same kind of Marvel thing that we've seen before, and which was exemplified in Homecoming, where Stark says to Spider-Man, "If you're nothing without that suit, you shouldn't have it." And I think it's that same thing that we're seeing Marvel at their old tricks in slightly different guises, which I don't hate. They're good tricks. Why would you not repeat them?
Well, it works. It does work.
Exactly. So I guess maybe we're at this, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it sort of moment in the story. Because we're halfway through now, aren't we? It's a 6-episode series, so we're midpoint of the whole thing. So yeah, structurally, I guess that makes sense. We're at this.
We've had a midpoint twist of Khonshu being turned into probably a toilet roll holder, maybe.
I'd say toilet roll holder.
Yeah, you could probably get a loo roll over the nose, couldn't you? And then
I think so. Either that, or you put him in. He could be a toilet roll cozy. Do you remember those from the? When, like the little Barbie things with the dress,
pink knitted Barbie with a giant ball dress on. Yeah.
Maybe a little tutu on him, and he would he'd become a thing.
Perfect. So Marvel, if you're listening and you hear that you want to do a bit of merchandising, hook us up.
Copyright script department on that one. Yeah, I mean, toilet. I love that that final scene there. I think we should talk about, because that was the moment where I think you see a moment of recognition from Arthur that, okay, maybe I am a bit of a bad guy, and maybe I'm okay with it. And he still thinks he's right, but I think he acknowledges it, and he acknowledges that there's a victory over that. And I think that's really powerful. I think it's a really powerful moment for a number of reasons. I think it's powerful because he's sort of overcoming his abuser in one way. That's a really powerful moment, if indeed he was abused. We don't know that for sure. And then it's also really powerful as a moment because he's throwing off that former mantle, and he's about to become presumably the avatar of another god. And yeah, it's a big victory for him there, and I think Ethan Hawke nailed it so great.
Yes, I mean another actor like really, really flexing their acting biceps in this show. Like the thing that he's been so in control of everything emotionally up to this point. He's got mad a couple of times and he's shouted a couple of times. He's killed a whole bunch of people, but none of it was that emotional. And this scene, he walks in, he's immediately seems, I don't know, there's a weird vulnerability to him asking if he can he hear us? And he just he knows that he's got a chance now to just go and tell him what he thinks. And he does. And he's you see that almost the whole of his motivation could be about revenge to Khonshu. He's like, he's almost saying, I'm doing this whole thing because you fucked me over, and like this is your fault, and when I win, I'll dedicate the victory to you, kind of thing. And he's manic and fragile in that precise moment, and you're like, oh, he's really messed up inside. I mean, we kind of knew that anyway with the glass walking and the killing of the old ladies and children, but sure. Like you see
clues there,
see him, you can see him, like the child inside that's upset that daddy hurt him, kind of thing. You can see that inside, and yeah, it was pretty scary. Pretty scary acting, I thought.
I agree, and the fact that he picked the little guy up, this kind of, he was this terrifying invisible force, and now he's holding him in his hands, and he can see what he's become encased in stone. Yeah, I thought it was really powerful, and yeah, for sure for sure. Like he was, it was great. I think I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit warmer after talking. I don't know, maybe we've done some Moon Knight therapy today because I feel a bit happier with it now. The one thing I do want to say though, one thing that really did that I want to touch on that really jumped out at me, the in this office block of gods in the Pyramid of Giza, before they go into this meeting, Khonshu says to Mark, we need to have this. We need a watertight situation here. Blah 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 blah. And then and they walk in and they go, "This is happening," or more like, "This is happening." And they bring him in. He goes, "Did you try and get him?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Khonshu, you're doing it again." And at no point did they mention this scarab. At no point did they mention the murdering of other people. At no point did they mention the staff he carries, which is literally a relic of this particular god. They didn't make any point other than to stand there and insult the other gods and just go, "You're all idiots for not listening to me." Well, you haven't given them a reason to listen to you. I don't know.
That was weird.
Yeah, I felt a bit sort of shortchanged by that because I feel like they could have been a really interesting sequence. It could have been a longer sequence as well. I think they could have spent more time in that place having that conversation and bringing out Mark, bringing out Stephen, bringing out these avatars and actually putting this god on trial. And they could still come to the same conclusion. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think they could have done it in a more convincing way because these are smart people and these are smart gods. And I just don't buy that it wouldn't have occurred to them to say, well, he nicked this scarab.
Yeah. I mean, there was something quite interesting about it. It was like a courtroom scene. Like there's the defendant and prosecution and, it was very courtroomy. And I think I was intrigued because we don't know the rules that they're playing by. So we've seen so many times over the last 5 years, like big name people get off with whatever for, in courtrooms because they've used the rules and oh, well, look, this isn't law breaking because of X, Y, and Z. And they go, okay, bye. And, they're gone. And, obviously it's the super wealthy that can do that. But there are, what if you can kill people in the law of the gods? What if you're allowed to do that? Because all they said was he hasn't broken any rules, or he hasn't broken any of our rules. And maybe you can do that. Maybe you can steal a scarab. I mean, Khonshu is turning the stars back 2,000 years. Like that's pretty meddling. That's pretty meddly. Yeah. I'm sure there's a level of slaughter they'd accept. But if maybe you're allowed to kill people, I don't know. They're gods. They're gods. We don't know who they are. They've got like human skin suits. Like, what do we know about these people?
Yeah, with glowy eyes.
With glowy eyes. But I just think there's something in there that's interesting that we're like, well, no laws were broken. I was talking to someone about the some of the tax haven stuff that's in the news at the moment with politicians, members of families and stuff like that. And they were sort of saying, well, they haven't broken any laws. I was like, yeah, but it's still really frowned upon, like what they're doing. Like they're not, it doesn't feel morally right, but they were right. They hadn't broken any laws. And it's like, maybe it's a similar thing here. Maybe they do know what he's doing with the scarab, and maybe they're like, oh, we'll have to step in at some point if Amit turns up. But
but right now we don't.
Maybe they won't. Maybe that's not against the law either.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It's you make a compelling argument, and you've got me right there on that. But I don't know. I just think they could have worked a little bit harder, and I just think that they go from did you do it to okay, he's not broken any rules without looking at anything at all. They just decide that he's not broken any rules. They don't even state, like you're right, they don't even state the rules that he hasn't broken. I don't know. I think they could have done a little bit more there. And also, do you want to know where Amit's tomb is? just follow him back through his little stone portal.
Exactly.
That's where he was.
Exactly.
Just
go with him. Check him out. Follow him about. Someone said he's doing some weird shit. If you don't believe, like, you believe it or not, just check it out.
Yeah.
Like, so it was a kangaroo court of ancient Egyptian gods. What were they doing?
Damn it! No
justice was not served.
Yeah, I agree. It was a kangaroo court, but I think that it's a mid-series episode. I stand by what I'm saying. There is that I don't think you can get away with mid-series episodes on a streaming thing like this. I don't think there's an excuse for it. Especially when it's only 6 episodes. This is. I would expect a little bit more than that. However, very entertaining for the most part, and can't complain too much really.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. I mean, the character building they've been doing has been pretty good. Like, because there's so many people potentially 3+ people inside one person, and he's doing it so well. I mean, he's doing a good job of it. I think the script has been good for his character specifically. I would still say in the hands of another actor, it might not feel as good, but it's working. Whatever's they've made here, as far as the characters are concerned, even with Harrow and characters like that, they're building them really, really well, and for me, that's what's pulling me through. That's why I want to stick with it and see what happens next.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Oscar Isaac's really he's selling it. And I'm just looking something up because I have a feeling that he's a producer here as well. I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling because if that's the case, I think that perhaps the dialogue works so well for him because it is written specifically for him. I mean, well, it's written specifically for him anyway. But I think that really does it really does come through, and I think he's had a lot to do with the development of this as well. And I think you get stars in there like Oscar Isaacs and Ethan Hawke, then you're gonna kind of step up. Yeah, he is. He's an executive producer for all 6 episodes. There we go. Yeah. So that is a thing. So yeah, he's clearly got some say on where things go and what's happening. So yeah, interesting to see what happens next week and what new accents might be revealed for me to try out.
There's going to be some good ones in there, surely.
Really
surely, like a French accent, maybe that'd be the cherry on top.
That would be so great. That would be so great. Well, thanks, man. I think we've done it. If you guys want to go back, as I say, check out our previous episodes on this. Then do. There'll be we're talking about it every week, so we'll keep on going. The Moon Knight is on Disney Plus, but you know that already if you're here. And check out all our other stuff. And until next time, ladies and gents, laters gators.